So you have Dali's interesting messing with our perception, this cosmic Christ who's hovering above the landscape. And we have Picasso who deconstructs the image. It's almost as if he's trying to do in art what the Quest is trying to do with scholarship. Where is this Jesus? Let's pull apart the pieces of a crucifixion. The cross is still a cross. But where's the head of Christ? Is it that one-eyed thing in the middle? Is it that open-mouthed cry? It doesn't look like our ideas about what the cross is. It makes us stop and think, wait, how do I picture the cross? Where's the crown of thorns? Surrealism, this and the abstract movement, this desire to pull things apart. The same thing is happening in the scholarly world at the same time. Pulling things apart, looking underneath, and putting it back together in new ways. Next image, Jim. Well, I want to fast forward just a little bit. We have the new quest going on. We're starting to really look for this Jesus, and we're doing amazing things now in biblical scholarship. There are translations that are not the King James Version. And that messes with our cultural mindset about who Jesus is, because now Jesus doesn't sound like Great Aunt Bertha. He doesn't sound like Queen Victoria. He sounds a little more like we do. And that starts our thought processes moving in some new ways. And so in this clip from Godspell, you have Jesus as a song and dance man leading a band of hippies in New York City. You'll see the World Trade Center being built in some of the footage. And he's singing a duet with the character of John the Baptist / Judas, because this particular movie merges those characters. Jim? So what do you think? Is that an image of Jesus that you're comfortable with? What troubles you? He's a clown. That can't be right. Of course, there's a part of me that really is entertained by the Cecil B. DeMille stiff Jesus and this Jesus, and I want to line them up side by side and let them have a conversation. What else troubles you about this? Feels a little bit sacrilegious, doesn't it? Tastes just a little teeny bit blasphemous. Should I be watching this? I understand that for many individuals in this time period, this was a new revelation about who Jesus was. And this was a Jesus they could relate to. This was a Jesus who might have been hanging out at Woodstock. Jesus of history or Christ of faith? Jesus of history? Christ of faith. Now, Janine, you're waving your hand in the back for... Jesus hung out in all the wrong places with all the wrong people, didn't he? So did this Jesus. Jesus had a tendency to teach in story and action. So did this Jesus. Jesus liked to mess with people's perceptions. So did this Jesus. So there's an element, isn't there, of the Jesus of history kind of peeking out underneath here. It's also interesting to note that in this particular movie, most of Jesus' spoken lines, not the sung lines, but the spoken lines, come directly out of Matthew's gospel. So this one plays a little bit with that. Christ of faith or Jesus of history, some of both. And that's troubling, isn't it? Because we don't want to think that the Jesus of history might have looked a little like that. That makes us uncomfortable. Jim? I told you earlier I was going to push your buttons a little bit and ask you to think in some ways that you're probably going to be uncomfortable with. The Last Temptation of the Christ, 1980, Martin Scorsese. He asks the rather disturbing question, what if the last temptation that Satan presents to Christ is the temptation to live a human life and die a human death? And what if Jesus doesn't resist? And so in Scorsese's film, Jesus lives a human life. He's a man married with children. Remember that that second quest is percolating and bubbling. And the third quest is just about to begin. And people are asking those questions. Who is this man, Jesus? And we see that reflected in this film. I'm going to show you the last scene from the movie in which a human Christ, there's a paradox, is dying. And Judas, who attempted to betray him, but Jesus wouldn't go, comes to confront the dying Christ. Jim?
Do you have any respect for him?
He's there. But you get a general sense of this scene. This very human Jesus. Christ of faith stripped away. And at the same time, in some ways, a profoundly theological statement about who Jesus is. An even more profound statement about who God is. Will you take back a prodigal son? You know the answer. Jesus of history or Christ of faith? Now it's getting a little messy, isn't it? We thought we knew the answer to this one clearly. It's Martin Scorsese. It must be the Jesus of history. But there's an element of the Christ of faith peeking out in this movie. When it first came out, there was a huge uproar. There were churches who boycotted it. There was a lot of press. And what was interesting was that the majority of people who campaigned against the movie had never seen it. So I want to caution you that sometimes images that are disturbing and troubling still need to be examined and considered and questioned. If we don't question and ask and look, we may miss profound theological truths because we're afraid of the question. Jim? Roughly the year 2000, I was clicking through some stuff online, and there was a headline that screamed, "The face of Jesus revealed!" Come on, you know what I did. I clicked it. I had to know. You did it too. Oh no. And then when you read the article, you realized that, well, it was a forensic reconstruction of a male in the first century Palestine, roughly the same time period as Jesus, put together from a number of different possibilities, skulls, archaeologists, forensics, CSI kind of stuff. But that wasn't the headline, was it? The headline was, "The face of Jesus revealed." Did you have a moment where you wondered? This is a piece of that quest rearing its head now into the news media. People are asking, what did Jesus look like? Did he look like this? Well, he probably looked more like this than Salmon's Swedish Jesus. But is this the face of Jesus? No. But even the media is beginning to get into that conversation, asking that question. Jesus of history or Christ of faith, by the way? Oh, come on, this one's easy. Jesus of history? Christ of faith? Jesus of history.